What's up, brother?
What's up, man?
Dude,
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course,
so
man.
cool
of
to
course.
be here.
So we've been talking like probably for like 30 minutes before this thing started, man. But I want to kind of pick up where we left off, man. And then we'll come back and hit up all those topics. But we were talking about communication, man. We were talking about how important it is and how I feel it's almost like a lost art, man. Like knowing how to talk to people, especially as like law enforcement. Then one of the things I mentioned is like when I started training, where I started in law enforcement, it was I wasn't totally comfortable talking to people. So one of my trainers was really good at this, man. So I said, hey, I know that I'm the one that's supposed to be in training, but for the next 2 hours, could you just like show me what that's supposed to look like? I'm just one of those guys that functions a lot better that way, man. So he did. So we switched seats, and for the next 2 hours, man, he was just getting out of getting out of the car, getting into people's pockets, finding information, talking to people in the street. And it was phenomenal, man, like to watch the power of communication where it came down to getting your point across, getting what you wanted out of people or de-escalation, which was huge. And I think that technology has to a certain way diminished people's ability to communicate. They do a tremendous job at sending you a text message or an email that describes everything that they're feeling. But face to face, they mumble, they lack that confidence, man, which is, it's unfortunate, especially for law enforcement. You 100% need that. If you don't know how to communicate, you have no business being in law enforcement. If you don't know how to communicate, it's not the end of the world. Learn how to do it, But what are your thoughts on that, man?
I don't know. I think it's really interesting. Like we were just saying that it's such a huge transferable skill. We talk about law enforcement, military training, and immediately people think about tactics and whether it be shooting or hand-to-hand combatives. Very rarely do people think, wow, it's really all about communication. Hearing you say that from a trainer, that you took a huge benefit from training with this guy and asking him, hey, let me just watch you communicate. Let me just watch you talk. That's huge, and it's a transferable skill. I'll tell you, when I got out of the military, I had very few skills. I was an infantryman. I wasn't a tech guy. And when I got out, I thought to myself, what am I going to do? What do I know how to do? And to be able to say, oh, I'm a good communicator was not on my mind. I thought, well, I can shoot guns, I can blow shit up.
I'll pick things up and then put them down.
Yeah, that's really all I thought about. I was really good at it. But it's really cool to hear someone say that. It's something that it's gonna stay with me. So thank you for that.
What branch of the military were you in?
I was Army.
Army?
I was Army.
How
I'm
many
rocking
years?
a cool shirt. I know guys can't really see it, but it says join the Army, visit exotic places, meet interesting people,
and then kill them.
Yeah. That's really the job when it comes to any kind of military, right?
So how many years were you in?
I did my 4-year enlistment. I did 4 years in and then got out. So you do 4 years active, 4 years inactive. That's usually the contract for those that haven't served. But yeah, I did 4 years in the Army.
What did you do during those 4 years? Where did it take you?
I was an Army Ranger. So yes, I served with the 75th Ranger Regiment. Very proud of that. If you could be humble and proud at the same time, I am. Just being attached
so
to
beautiful, man.
that unit. Still really great friends with my brothers, and it was a huge thing in my life that, for the most part, shaped who I am as a man and my career. Started in 2000 and continued my career beyond that. And here we are, 2018.
Where in the world? I don't know if you're able to say, but where in the world did you end up serving as a Ranger?
Oh, so I was stationed in Savannah, Georgia. I know earlier we were talking about academies and places, and that's an idea. It's kind of a fantasy of mine to open something in Savannah, Georgia. And I'm from the West Coast. I'm a Cali kid,
Yeah.
So for me to go that far out to Savannah, and it was just gorgeous. But as far as deployments, I served a couple deployments in Iraq, a couple deployments in Afghanistan.
Jeez, man, what was that like? How old were you at the time?
Rock and roll. It was rock and roll.
How old were you at the time?
I was one of the older guys. I went in late in life, and I want to say I was 23, 24 years old.
Right.
Serving with guys my age that were team leaders and guys that were my equals, let's say, that were 18-year-old kids.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, it was definitely rock and roll, especially in that time. It was 2000 to 04, so things were busy. Not to say things aren't busy now. Shout out to all the vets out there.
Absolutely.
All the active members handling business.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for your service, man. And it's, man, people don't understand the mechanics that go behind a deployment, because it's not just you putting your neck out there doing what needs to be necessary to keep us safe, because there are incredibly evil people out there that truly have no other purpose in life but to, in their mind, leave a mark in the history of America through some horrible act of terrorism. And that's truly their goal, and that's it. And how do you deal with that, man? You can't, I think as America, we've tried everything. We've tried diplomacy, we tried sitting down and talking to tribe members and stuff like that, but there's for a small percentage, is like they don't care. There's no understanding coming in. Is you're my enemy, and either you die or I die killing you.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
It's super tough, It's like you said, it's hard to break away from that primitive mindset. It is very tribal. Unfortunately, there's evil people out there. I always say, it's a little phrase of mine, is the evil that men do. Whether it be nationally, or we're talking about terrorist organizations, or just some horrific criminal here in the streets, And there has to be men and women that are able to do something to stop them, and how that gets fixed. I don't know if it actually is something that could be tribal or regulated governmentally wide. I think it's something that's internally on each individual person mentally. But once they've made that switch to be, let's just say, I'm quoting bad. Once they've been bad, like, how do we fix them? And that's way out of my frame of thinking. I really don't know.
I like this thought process that I've used for a lot of different things, but it says, tend to the garden that you can touch.
Say that again?
Tend to the garden. Tend to the part of the garden that you can touch.
Yeah.
Meaning it's like a giant jungle out there, man, but I can't fix what's going on over there.
Yeah.
I can only, if I can touch this part of the garden, maybe I can teach others beyond my span of control to look at what I'm trying to do, to look at what you're doing and say, okay, you know what? That resonates with me. I'll tend to my part of the garden. Eventually, we all tend to the entire forest. I don't know if that makes sense.
Manny Flores dropping knowledge bombs.
I like that, man. I think
really
it's yeah. So I'm a really fan of that, man. So in my interactions, I'd really try to very conscious about, like, okay, what am I doing to my garden? Because there's people watching, whether it's kids and adult, women, whatever it is, they watch, and it's energy, man. Whatever energy you put out, it might affect somebody else in a positive or a negative way. So I don't know, man. I'm really conscious about that, but it's it's a heartbreaking process, because there are definitely people, like I said, that are completely driven to create something evil. Like and here in America, they just busted those two guys that were training school shooters.
Yep.
That's it. They were breeding kids to go to school and commit an act of terrorism, to kill other kids. How many kids have been infected with that mindset? And man, the years is going to take to teach them that it's the wrong way. And especially, how were these guys able to grab onto these kids, man? Like, what is it about? What are we doing with this youth that these kids were so vulnerable that these guys were able to get to them? That's my question.
It's interesting, because it's one of those things that yin yang, right? There's people gravitate towards something bad. Maybe it'd be because it looks cooler or whatever. How do we counter it? How do we make being good as appealing as being bad? I know, growing up in the 80s, and I'm mocking gangster rap. I grew up on gangster rap.
Right.
I loved it. But just like everybody else, I was screaming, "Fuck the police." Right. It's a great song.
Yeah.
I gravitated towards the bad, right, instead of going towards whatever would be the counter or the opposite of that. I wanted to be a gangster, because it was cool.
Right.
It was cool to be a gangster.
The imagery of an empowered person.
Yes.
That's what we gravitate towards. But I think that gangster rap, man, I think I was listening to this guy talk about, listen to the message, don't listen to how it's presented, right? So I think that with gangster rap, it's so easy to just push it aside and just dismiss it as a negative part of the history. But within the lyrics, man, if you pay attention, like there were some real issues that had to be addressed.
Oh, absolutely.
And it just happened to have taken the format of gangster rap, and it resonated. But why did it resonate with so many people? Well, because it empowered. It presented the image of people that didn't necessarily have the feeling of empowerment, and all of a sudden, gangster rap gave them that empowerment, and it addressed social issues. You know, within that comes with the toxic part of gangster rap, which was the necessary violence and substance abuse, the violence towards law enforcement, you know. So, but I think that it's important. I'm a big fan of rebellion. I think that with that rebellion and protest, nothing changes. People get annoyed where I used to get annoyed as a law enforcement with protest. I used to get annoyed because it affected me at a personal level. I don't get to practice because this protest is happening, you know. But with that protest, nothing changes. It's the voice of the people to get out there and say, you know, like I was watching this documentary on something as simple as this, man. Back during the time of Martin Luther King, there was a little girl. I mean, she must have been like 10, 12 years old, something like that. What triggered her urge to protest was the fact that she was getting, they were like in 5th or 6th grade, whatever it was, and she was getting hand-me-downs textbooks from white kids. Okay. So the book already had the other kid's name, and he was just ragged. He was falling apart. Where white kids were getting brand new textbooks. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the fact that she felt that the educational system wasn't truly caring for her needs, or these were outdated textbooks, it motivated her enough to say, you know what, I'm going to go out there. So this girl, and I can't remember her name, but this girl, along with other kids, volunteered to go get arrested with Martin Luther King during his walks. So the images of the African American people that are getting pushed against walls by hoses or getting bit by dogs, it's this little group of teenager kids, not even adults, because adults didn't want to go because they didn't want to get fired. So at the end of the day, I think they ended up arresting, I think in a period of 3 days, they ended up arresting over 1,200 teenagers, black teenagers, that were peacefully protesting. But the fact that it was teenagers getting hosed down and bit by dogs is what woke up America and said, hey, this is not good. We don't want this. So that pushed change.
Right.
You know, where previously Martin Luther King was in conversations with JFK saying, hey, we need change, we need this, we need that. And not that JFK wouldn't have done it, but the process would have been a lot slower through legislature, through talks and whatever it is. Protest, man. I'm a big fan of it, man. I'm a big fan of it. It does put the power to the people. I think it's important. As inconvenient as it is when people take to the street, I think it's important.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
It's funny that it took the images of some kids getting their ass kicked for the change to actually take effect. America's pretty stubborn.
Well, it's I think the world's pretty stubborn, man. I think overall, I think that we get comfortable. I don't think that the world flows just like this natural, you know, like a ball of energy. I think it's like, I compare more to like domino, where we're comfortable here, this set of rules, this is okay, everybody happy here. Clearly not everybody's happy. Clearly we're screwing somebody over, and it takes a lot of change to ride it, to turn it, boom, and now we're here. And this is the world as we know it for the next 50, 60 years, until more people say, you know what, we need to keep pushing forward. We need to fight for the better pay of teachers. We need to fight for gay rights. We need to fight for whatever it is. And then this slow process of change in that, you know. But it's a painful process, but it's interesting to watch. Man, I think that in my time on this earth, I've seen enough change for me to like, okay, this is how things change. It changes through protest. It changes through people getting out there screaming their voice. It changes slowly, but changes do happen, you know. But that's why it's so important that the young ones get out there, you know, because also like nobody wants to listen to us. We're part of the old guys.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
We go to concerts, and Joshua was telling me that there's a festival now that has, what do you call it? Daddy Daycare. Have you heard about this?
Daddy Daycare?
Motherfuckers. Yes, Daddy Daycare, dude.
So I can go when I go take my teenage daughter to the KFMA day, there's a
So
she
you
can
go
put me in daycare.
So there's a daddy daycare where
That
they
is
play
awesome. Is
where
there
they
beers
play
and, like, strippers there.
No. They play classic rock. They play like
This sounds awesome.
right,
It's
but
a
it's
little tent and it's got like lawn chairs and like the sprinklers and they just play like classic rock
I want to go to daddy daycare.
and you get to
Fired
vote
up.
for Reagan
over and
over and over again, and they're like Reagan. And your kids are partying now. Isn't that crazy?
That
man?
sounds awesome. Yeah.
But it's So we can support the voice, man. But it's definitely the youth that needs to get out there and be
Very cool
and push it, man.
cool.
And push it.
So I feel very strongly that training, and in particular training jiu-jitsu, is a way to counter that negative image of empowerment that can have kids or even adults gravitate towards that bad. Black belt professors like yourself and others within the community, within the nation, within the world, I think they have that image of an empowered individual that is a positive image. And man, I'm a sucker for all the old quotes and the reality of jiu-jitsu. I nerd out on it. I do believe that if everybody knew jiu-jitsu, it'd be a better place.
It would, man. It would. I nerd out too, man. Because there are truths in jiu-jitsu, and those are the quotes that you're talking about. The quotes, the knowledge. They are the truths that all of a sudden they happen in the chemistry of a role, and then a thought comes out or a quote, and then you put it out in the world, and it might resonate for somebody in New York. Something that happened in Tucson.
Yeah.
Somebody reads that, and you're like, all right, man, that's helping my journey. I love it, man. It's a beautiful thing of jiu-jitsu where people can come together regardless of their economical status, their background, whatever it is. People are able to come together and train in one mat. To me, the power of that was I had a training partner that had been in prison for majority of his life. And when I started training, we used to train with a lot of law enforcement, and we welcomed him, welcomed with open arms. And he was a good kid. He was starting to change his ways. One day, practice ends. He used to end 7:30, and I see him walking down the street. So I'm like, I pull up, and I was like, hey, let me give you a ride, man. So he jumps in, and I'm giving him a ride, and he starts talking about how wonderful it is to train with the group of people that we had, and that there were so many law enforcement in there. And then this is what he said. He goes, let me tell you something. You don't want to learn? And I go, what's up, dude? And he goes, I didn't know people didn't go to jail. I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, for me growing up, when we had a barbecue, a carne asada on a Sunday,
Yeah.
and Angel didn't show up, we're like, hey, where's Angel? Oh, dude, they had some warrants, man, so they caught him on Friday. He gets out on Wednesday. Oh.
Yeah, just a normal way of life. Right?
Just a normal way of life.
Yeah.
People had warrants. People get arrested for driving suspended license. People got arrested for fighting. Or whatever the reason was, people went to jail. And for him to all of a sudden to hear people talk about like their weekend and how family was there, and it was such a alien concept. He was like, what do you mean people don't go to jail? And we're like, yeah, people don't go to jail, dude. Like, normally people don't go to jail.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. He goes, it might sound stupid to you, but he said, within the last 6 months, I just learned that I don't have to go to jail. That's crazy, man.
Mind-blowing, man.
It's mind-blowing, man. But but that's just one example. It might be a little bit to an extreme, but yeah, man, like you empower people through jiu-jitsu. You empower people through your very actions, and people watch you, especially people like you, man. Like,
Appreciate that.
You know what? Angel is competing. Angel is getting out there. Angel is doing all, because I think that for people that are as busy in life as you, if you were looking for an excuse not to do anything in life, you have it. You have that excuse. But you use that as a reason. I continue to push because of everything that's happening in my life.
Yeah.
It's part of the process moving forward. So sometimes you don't even have to talk to the kid, man. You just sometimes with the look of like, hey, I'm out there. Let's go. Why are you not out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts sometimes it's a look, man, but it starts what I think it starts, it kickstarts that what would you call it, man? That process of looking inward and go, okay, why am I not doing it? Why am I not doing it? I have excuses why am I not doing it, but my excuses compared to Angel's excuses are nothing, you know? So why am I not doing it? And it's awesome, man. I love people that inspire others through action. It's not always just words, it's action.
It's awesome. I love it. Yeah, actions speak louder than words, and it's really humbling to hear you, like, I don't know, in some way use me as a standard and measure. I just like getting after it, you know. And I got kids, you know, much like you. I got 2 sons and 2 daughters, and I want to show them, you know, that life isn't just about wake up, go to work, come home. Yeah, you can have a great family, love your family, click the remote control. You have time to do more, you know. I have passion through jiu-jitsu and the fitness lifestyle. I enjoy getting outdoors. I love firearms trainings. Everything I do because I enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. There's very little that I do that I don't enjoy doing. And I find somehow, some way, I don't know how I do it, but to squeeze those things in, those extracurricular activities, let's say, in between being a single dad, in between working a long 10-hour shift, you know, and cutting back on sleep, mm-hmm. getting it done. And I see it in my kids. Well, my oldest daughter, I had a kid when I was younger, I was a teen parent. My older daughter is a Navy vet, you know, running her own family, married, has a beautiful daughter of her own. The kid's a grandpa, believe it or not.
That's so crazy.
It is crazy, man. Yeah. It is very crazy. My teenage daughter, below her, you know, she's crushing it at school and does, you know, extracurricular stuff, plays the guitar. My 2 boys, they're just monsters, you know, they're getting after it. So
they see it, man. They see it.
It's good. Yeah, it's one of those things. That's what I immediately thought about when you were saying that. Like, my kids see it, and as long as my kids see it and they go out and they hopefully live their life like mine, if not better, which is, you know, just like any parent's hope.
Right.
I consider this game a win. Right. When I check out.
You tend to your garden and they'll tend to theirs, and it continues. How long have you been training?
Jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting story. So I started training as a kid. I grew up in LA, and I was part of the inner city program where they bus you into the good schools.
What year is this?
This was 1991. I think it was when I graduated in 95 high school. So we're talking about 91, 95. Mm-hmm. So I got bused into Torrance, California, where I started wrestling. My old wrestling coach and his brother, to this day, great friends of mine, mentors, the Garrett brothers and Donnie Garrett, big shout out, sup coach. They got me into wrestling. And I was a really good wrestler, but not great. I might be the only guy from California that isn't a state champion, because everybody I've ever met from California, they're all state champions.
In California, it's hard to win.
It's a tough.
It's because it's different. In California, if you win state, you truly won state.
Oh yeah, those guys are
in states.
All wrestlers are monsters. I think. Yeah. But I started wrestling back then, and because I was in Torrance, you know, I ended up wandering into this weird green mat space where these 2 kids strangled me for a couple days, and then years later, you know, I dabbled with jiu-jitsu in the military, and it wasn't until 2013 finally made that decision. Keep dropping names, but I had this great man, mentor of mine, Mark Rios, and Mark reminded me of this old adage, you know, of if it's important to you, you'll find a way. And I found a way. In 2013, I found those 2 kids in those green mats that grew up, and it was Hedon and Henry Gracie. Mm-hmm. And I started training under these DVDs, Gracie University, with a buddy of mine, and in this old mat room, started a team at work and just trained. And I went after it, like a couple hours a day for 5 days a week. And about a year into it is when I realized I need a team. I need coaches, I need a black belt, I need somebody to mentor me in this process. I was sold. I wanted to train jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. I finally had the time. I was financially able to do it. And right around towards the end of 2013, 2014, I joined my team at Gracie Barra, and I've been training under Professor Enrique Villegas since then. And I can't get enough of it. You know, I'm hooked. Sometimes it's hard for me to find the balance, mm-hmm. but if I have any free time, I just want to roll. I just want to
fight,
roll,
man. Yeah,
You know?
no,
And,
it's 100%. Yeah.
So I guess I've been training for the last 5 years consistent.
Last 5 years consistently.
Yeah, last 5 years.
I like the one thing I want to explore it a little bit more. What was it that when you said I need a team? And the reason I ask is there are a lot of people that I know that refuse to train in a team, and they like training in garage, and I call them garage fighters. Yeah. And they might have a good combination of people in there that makes them very tough, but their growth will stun, you know. And I never understood what was it about them that they straight up refused to submit. Like you said, like, you know, going to train at an academy is acknowledging your own shortcomings and acknowledging that you want to get better at this thing, that you understanding enough to know that you love it, but understanding enough to know that there is a whole game out there that you're just not going to be able to get to. For me, at least, that's what it was, you know, where I said, okay, I need to train with a team. But then there's this group of people, man, that just straight up refused to be part of a team, to submit to somebody's tutelage, you know. So I don't know if it's a personality thing where they just they don't want to feel like they don't want to feel like they're submitting to somebody's authority, you know, because of the academy. I don't know, man. I always find that weird.
You might be right on both sides, you know. I think one's personality, like for me, and as we were talking earlier, it's pretty obvious. I'm a very team-minded guy. You know, my background in the military and wrestling, family. I think you're right on that side. I think you're also right. Like, it could be something to do with ego, you know.
Yeah, like, that ego's a monster, man.
Yeah,
it's the biggest enemy of everything.
It sure is.
Motherfucker, man.
I know for me though, it's one of those things that I like. You know, I love having my team, and I also like visiting other teams. Mm-hmm. You know, shaking hands, and sometimes, you know, you walk in there and you got to establish that pecking order. I tap, I get the tap, or it's cool. It's all fun in jiu-jitsu, you know.
Right.
We're playing this I kill you, you kill me game, and afterwards we all smile. But even though I have my team at home, let's say, I love visiting other teams and training with other teams, and I just want to learn, you know. I just want to learn jiu-jitsu, if that's even a possibility to learn jiu-jitsu.
I think you can learn. I think you can understand it, but to learn, like, I'm still learning. Yeah. We're still learning. Like, you're going to be, you know, like, we went and visited Frangina out there in Ventura, and we were there for about 3-4 days. And you know, you want to talk about pedigree and just somebody's achievements. You know, it's like Frangina's definitely one up there with the greats, but he understands jiu-jitsu, but he continues to learn. And it was so cool too. On our last day, we were off to the side, and it was just like a bunch of black belts, and he was just like a bunch of brown belts and like 1 or 2 purple belts. And then he was just, let me show you this, let me show you that. I saw this, I saw that. I did this during the roll. What do you think? I have something there. And dude, the guy that talked the least but watched the most was Frangina. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's very
He was just sitting there, man, and he was just absorbing. He was like, show me that again, man. You know? He was like, you know, but he was like, oh, okay. Right,
very, very cool.
But that's yeah, man. I love that, man. It's like I think you can understand it, but to say that you've learned it, man, it just keeps going. It's just a book that keeps adding chapters and chapters. So, so how long before you started competing in jiu-jitsu?
Oh, I've competed right away.
As soon as you started, like, did you wait anything? Like,
no, I think I was training about a month.
No shit, dude. I waited 6 months, and I felt like I was like rushing because I came from a wrestling background.
Right.
But this is also the dark ages of jiu-jitsu, where I was a 2-stripe white belt, and I fought a blue belt that went on to fight in the UFC.
Did you have even opportunities for competitions? I'm assuming not as we do now.
No, back then it was there was 1 or 2 tournaments in Arizona, and we went and competed. Like I said, and I showed up as I think I weighed up 212, something like that, white belt with 6 months training. And they were like, well, there's another white belt, and here's this blue belt that's really good, that's fighting the cage. And later on went to fight in the UFC. You want to fight him? I was like, oh, okay. You know? And I went out there, and the first thing that my coach says, he goes, "Watch out for his spider guard."
Did you have any idea what the spider guard was?
No, because I looked at him and go, "What the fuck is spider guard?" And you could just see he goes, "Fuck." He goes, "Just keep your arms in." I was like, "Okay." So, but I won.
Awesome.
But I got choked out twice. But I won.
But you won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, man. But you started right away.
Yeah. So I
A month in.
and the first tournament was.
And this is still in California.
No. I started training here in Arizona.
Right.
Professor Enrique Viegas is my first jiu-jitsu professor.
Okay, first
And,
formal guy.
Yeah, first white to purple, hopefully all the way to black. We'll see. You know, I don't see why not. But yeah, there was an in-house tournament at Chris's gym at Rise.
Right. We were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey man, you want to compete? You should compete. I was like, okay, Professor, I'll compete. You know.
Yeah.
Went in there. I had 2 or 3 matches, and I got a submission. I forget what it was. It was a triangle. I got a triangle choke for my first match. Second one I won by points, and the third I won by points as well.
Very nice.
And I won gold my first match. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know if I really used much jiu-jitsu in this. I just kind of was being a bully.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went in there and just kind of grappled these guys. And I did really well as a white belt. I competed a lot. Like, after that, I just stayed after it. I love competing. I feel like it. I've always competed at something, whether it be marathons, triathlons, mud runs, you name it. Shooting competitions. I love the idea of training for something and then going and doing it. You know, task and purpose. I'm huge on it. I think it's something ingrained in me. So to be able to.
Was that from the military?
I don't know. Somebody once asked me that, and I'd have to say, without thinking, yes, absolutely, from the military.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like that before the military too. I don't know where that comes from.
But task and purpose.
Task and purpose is from the military.
Right.
But as far as me wanting to do that, I'd have to say it was something, I don't know where it came from. Maybe my old man. I have no idea.
Just being very competitive?
Yeah, just wanting to do stuff, you know? Like, even if it's competitive with myself. Like I said, I ran marathons, and every time I ran one, which I'm never running one again. If you haven't run one, don't run one. They're horrible. It's a big mistake. No one should ever run marathons, ever.
I hate running, man.
Ever. But every time I have, I go in there with my last time. I'm trying to beat that time. So my point is, I really enjoy competing. Every opportunity that I can, I will. I'm not afraid to lose. I don't want to. Nobody wants to lose.
But you accept it. You accepted that it's a very possible outcome.
Yeah, I go in there knowing I may lose, and I'm okay with losing, and I love it. Everything from the preparation to the, I don't know what to call it, that nervous energy, because it's not bad. I never was really like shooken to the point where I couldn't focus.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that my jiu-jitsu in competition isn't a little bit skewed through the fact that I am competing, but I don't get too rattled. But I enjoy that nervous energy. Everything about competing. I mean, I'm fighting somebody. You know, it satisfies this weird primitive thing inside everybody, not just men but women as well. So competing is where it's at as far as I'm concerned when it comes to jiu-jitsu.
So how do you personally deal with the because this two things stop a lot of people from competing. Number one is the ego, right? And a lot of times it's not just the ego, but it's wanting to please people and feeling like you might disappoint them. A lot of times that comes from having bad coaches. I have a student of mine that, man, I was trying to get him to compete for years, and finally I kind of like cornered him. I'm like, dude, what is it? What's your mental break? You know? And he grew up a boxer. His break or his block was when he was boxing, his coach would tell him, "Don't embarrass me." Yeah. Right? And I was like, it floored me, man. I'm like, first of all, coach should never say that. It's the journey of your fighter. You're there to support him. You're not there to, I don't know, to push your brand, your agenda through him or anything like that. It's his journey. Support him. But dude, it almost like brought me to tears, man, because it almost brought him to tears. So this is a guy that's about to be, 35, 36. So for many years in his life, he's carried this. Like, fuck, he just told me that. It was like, I don't want to disappoint you. And I was like, dude, win, lose, or draw, I'm here for you, man. Let's go out there and have a fight, you know? But yeah, there are a lot of things. And then that nervousness that you're talking about, that is, if you're competing or you do anything in life and you say, I don't get nervous, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. However, what you do with that nervous energy, that's the difference right there. Mm-hmm. That is the difference right there. Like you said, it's a nervous energy that you enjoy it and you use it, you feel it, you use it as fuel for competition. How do you do that? At what point were you able to 100% use that to where it doesn't sound like it ever stopped you from doing anything, but how do you go through the process, man, of using that nervous energy with like the doubts?
That's a tough question. I think once you accept the fact that you could lose. Hey, I can lose. I don't want to lose, and I'm going to do everything in my power not to lose.
Right.
But once you accept the fact that I may lose, I think that nervous energy no longer becomes something that's detrimental, but something that could help you. There is that, like you said, I think that's ego. And then letting somebody down, disappointing somebody. That, I have incredible coaches, and go out and have fun. Just have fun, Angel. Do what you do. You first. Have fun. But there comes a point, and I think it's because I'm so team-driven, that if I do lose, I feel like I let my team down. Yeah, I'm out here flying the flag. I'm out here. Hopefully it was a good fight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But ultimately, if I lost, I let my team down, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I think as far as that nervous energy, it's complicated. I haven't figured it out. But I can tell you is that,
do you fight it through preparation?
do
you fight it through preparation? Meaning, I am so nervous that just means I'm going to prepare that much more. Does that make sense?
No. I think it that's the cool thing about competition, how ego checking it is. Because during that, let's call it a camp. I'm training up for this camp. Man, you're a monster in your own head. You could crush anybody. Then you get out there, and here comes that nervous energy. You're still choosing to step out on that mat. You shake that man's hand, and then you go to war. And you win, awesome. A lot of times, it's happened to me, that ego just gets bigger. I lose, and it settles you right back down.
Right.
It humbles you, back to the gym. To the gym so you can go find that monster that you thought you were.
Yeah. I love that, man.
I'm just searching for that monster,
Yeah, so what brought us to this table, man, is so you participated in my last event, The Last Warrior Standing, and you fought Danny Allen in the purple belt division, and you guys had the fight of the night. That fight was tremendous, man. He was back and forth. It was action packed. It was like both of you guys were going for the kill, but bringing it back a little further back in time was, you had just gotten your purple belt. And I remember you and I had a conversation, and you said, I just got my purple belt. I want to find my footing. I want to compete. And I found that so inspiring, because what I see with a lot of people is they start training, and they're white belts, and they won't touch the mat or the competition till they're almost right about to be blue belt.
Yeah.
And then they get their blue belt, and they won't touch the mat till they're right about to get purple.
Yeah.
Even if I know guys that have gone entire belts without competing.
Yeah.
But you went the complete opposite, man. You're like, dude, I need to figure out, okay, I just got my purple belt. I need to see what that purple game is like.
Yeah.
So it's trial by fire, but it takes a lot of courage, but it's definitely a way of doing it that speaks volume of your character, man. But tell us about that story, man. Tell us about you got your purple, and then you're like, okay, I need to compete, instead of just hiding.
So here's the way I look at it. It's I'm paying my dues,
right?
And I'm not paying my dues to jiu-jitsu, to my professor, to my team, to that belt. I'm paying my dues to all the tough purple belts that are in that division. Whether they're just became purple belts the same day I did, they've been a purple belt for a year, or they're on their way into that brown strap, which I've had a super fight that the guy won and then got a brown strap immediately afterwards. I'm paying my dues to those savages that have established that rank of purple belt. I know I'm fresh meat. I know I'm the new guy with a new purple strap, and I'm here to pay my dues. I'm not ducking anybody. I'm not hiding from it. I am a purple belt. And those guys have paved the way in that rank, and here I am to pay my dues to them. So immediately when that belt came around my waist, man, it was humbling. I got promoted with 2 guys that have been training for a year longer than me, just because, like I said, I try to live on the mats. And immediately, I competed within the next couple of weeks.
Dude, that's so awesome.
And I want to be able to, I don't know, it's almost like a thing of showing respect to these guys, you know? And I'm coming for you.
I love that, man. I love that. What do you remember of that fight with Danny?
Oh, so I remember it was awesome. I remember I got a chance to play into the crowd because we talked a little bit in the backstage, you know, before, and man, he was all game, you know. We said hello, but there wasn't much exchange prior to the fight. But then we came out and
he strips down to Noki.
He strips down
and then I see you going.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly what I thought. I was like, what the fuck?
And
like,
then I have to like calmly
go
walk up and like, what are you doing, man? And he's like, I thought it was Noki. I was like, put your fucking gear on. Oh. He puts his key back on.
So it was pretty cool because when that was going on, I was able to kind of play into the crowd. I said something about taking off my pants, you know. And it was funny. I had a good time with that. And then the fight starts, you know, and right away we lock up. I remember he pulled guard, or he went down right away, and I was working his top half, and it's something that because of that fight, I was able to look back at all my other fights, and I realized, wow, I end up in these particular positions and situations, not just a lot, but in the last 10 fights, I've been in an exact same situation. I guess it's something I need to work on. But anyways, I get in this position, and I start setting up some sort of choke, a collar type choke, lapel choke, I should say. And man, you know, I was just, it's a game of millimeters, right? I was just that far off to where I couldn't sink it, you know. I couldn't sink the choke. And I remember thinking, like, when I lost that and we started scrambling, that I wanted to allow for movement. This is a super fight. This isn't IBJJF points where an advantage makes a difference, to where I'm going to try to control as much as possible. So I allowed for a little bit of movement, not taking anything away from my competitor Danny. Guy's a monster. But I ended up in a bad position, and the reason why I say that is because I remember me not even resisting him going to knee on belly. And then ultimately,
because you're not worried about points. That's what I love about the setup of no points super fight. It allows you that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna allow that knee to come in, and maybe I can just start doing something with it. You know, feeding into deep half or something.
Yeah, I really dig it. I dig it a lot.
So then what happened? So he goes knee to the belly.
I'm having a hard time remembering everything that went through. It's been a little while now, but I do remember, like, he got in a great position, took my back, and there was a scramble within that. Like, his hooks weren't quite in, but he ended up. I felt the arms come around my neck, and I felt safe because, like, well, he doesn't have a collar, he doesn't have my neck. He actually had some weird lock under my jaw, and started stretching out my jaw, right? Like, I felt really stretched out, and I remember old Danny Allen, that monster, yelling at me, tap. And I feel my teeth just locked up, you know, and I'm thinking, I ain't fucking tapping.
Do this,
And then we start moving. I start moving. I could feel an angle where I might be able to get out. And then I feel and I hear a tooth crack. And I'm thinking to myself, like, it's not a true choke. It hurts, but I'm not tapping to this.
Right.
But when that tooth cracked, I started thinking, like, all right, how many teeth am I going to give Danny? I thought, well, that one's cracked.
That is so, well,
that
one doesn't count.
So he's got it already. I could keep going. And we're talking about, you know, fractions of a second. These thoughts are going through my head as this monster has my head in his arms and he's pulling it, trying to rip my head off my shoulders, literally.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, Danny's got that tooth that's already cracked. I guess it's good as gone. I can keep going. And then I felt it like, I swallowed a piece of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I think it's time to tap. So I tap, and I'm sitting there thinking and I got up. I think I said, I think you owe me a tooth, bro.
That's so awesome, man. Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, it was a great fight. Hearing you say that it was, fight of the night and it was entertaining, like that's why I compete for my own personal stuff and to develop like my team and guys that are below me and above me as well. But ultimately, like when you compete in front of people, you're performing, and I want to be able to perform and put on a good show.
Right.
So to hear somebody say, "Hey, man, that was a great fight." Like it's awesome.
No, it was definitely.
I gotta thank Danny Allen for that, man.
Yeah.
Like,
You need a good dance partner, right?
Yeah.
You need a good dance partner.
that dude can dance. Let me tell you.
Because you might have a guy that fights not to lose and just locks you up,
Absolutely.
and then you're like, "Fuck, man."
Yeah. Then it's just boring.
Then it's just boring.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have the technique to like set up a pass and stuff like that, but now this guy's fighting to hold. He doesn't want to lose. He'll lose a decision, but he's not going to get caught in a submission because he's not going to expose.
Yeah, you almost got to allow for a little bit of movement, at least from what I understand at this point. Allow for a little bit of movement to make it a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I think we did.
If any, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's it's a fight that that we've promoted in the social media because as we continue to have these fights, we're going into our third one, and definitely for people to study. Oh, this is what a good, exciting match looks like from both perspectives. From both guys that are willing to dance, willing to throw submissions out there, willing to give up the safetiness of side control, which you don't do in IBJJF. You're like, I got my 3 points, man.
That's what
I got my 3 points, and I have 2 minutes left. I'm gonna throw like a choke here and there, but I'm not giving this up, So it's different, man. It changes the. But I enjoy that I enjoy that no point submission only with that amount of time to work.
Oh, absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
need time to work.
It's very comforting too to know like I could dance for a while.
Right. Beautiful, man. So you're talking about. So one thing that we were talking about before we started was, you want to at some point as you're done with your career, you want to open up an academy.
Yes.
And dude, and I think it's phenomenal, man. And one thing that we were saying is that I think you have a voice and a vision to pursue in jiu-jitsu. What are your goals in jiu-jitsu? What do you want to accomplish as a competitor in jiu-jitsu? What is something that you're working towards?
So these are goals for me, athletic goals and personal goals, and I believe they're going to be professional goals because I've been told from the very beginning of my career, hey, stack your resume, and I have been. But what I've been doing it for is to be a jiu-jitsu professor, and I feel like with my background and things, like I have a nice resume. To add to that resume, I want to be Pan Am champion. I want to be Masters World champion. And I don't want it just once. Like, I want it. Meaning I want it and I want to hold on to it. I want to go after it every year. As far as Pan Ams goes, as a blue belt, I took bronze, and it was a great year. Last year's blue belt, I competed as much as possible, sometimes twice a month. And as
That's
a purple,
a lot, man. That's a lot.
As a purple, I was like, I'm just gonna go and check it out. I got promoted in November, December. Pans is in March. I'm gonna go out, and I took silver. Won my first 3 matches.
That's
and
amazing.
Wow, I was just blown away by it.
Yeah.
Granted, then I went on to losing quite a bit after that, but at Pans I took silver. That's
all
got
that matters,
silver,
man.
right?
Is that pan to get on the podium, man, in those big tournaments. Anything that has to do with Pans, Worlds, Nationals, just to get on that podium, it's like only the big dogs show up for those tournaments, man.
Yeah.
There's no filler. Everybody's meat. There's no potato in there.
Yeah.
Everybody's meat.
Yeah, they're all monsters there. This year, unfortunately, I'm not going to Masters World. Just financial and life events that I'm not going to go. Next year, I plan on doing it and continue chasing those 2 mountains, I want to climb those mountains. I just don't know, and here's a question for you. Like, as far as when you start getting deep into these master divisions, and that's one thing I love about these super fights is like, I don't care about the age division. I'll make weight or gain weight. But when it comes to IBJJF tournaments, I've noticed that at Masters 4 or 5, it may not be, and I'm not saying the competition isn't as hard. The amount of people that are within that bracket aren't as much as there is in
the Pan American, right?
Or a 20-year-old bracket.
Yeah.
You know?
So like if you look at the purple belt division in pants in the adults, you're gonna see, especially like in the lighter weights, you're gonna see your division has 140 competitors.
Right.
You know.
Right.
You're gonna be there for a while. It's gonna be like at least 2 days of competition. As it progresses, it's especially as it starts getting up there in age, you know, you're gonna see less and less competitors just because, you know, it's you don't see a lot of people over 40 that have gotten there healthy, or that have the willingness to make the sacrifices to compete like you and I do, right? But the fights will be there, man. The talent is still there. The brackets are not as deep because, you know, unfortunately for I'll be 40 this year and I'm a black belt, right? For me, the crazy thing about it, man, is like once you're a black belt, you're a black belt. You know what I mean? Like when you compete at purple, you're fighting within 2 years experience.
Right.
You know, for me is I fight a masters. I think I'm masters 3 now.
Yeah.
And I show up and I got my black belt. You know, I started competing in 2000 or training in 2000. Got my black belt in 2012. So I've been a black belt for 6 years. I get up there, man, and there's a black belt there's a black belt that's been a black belt since 1998. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, oh, look at all those stripes on his belt, man. But you only have control over your performance. You can't. And that's one thing that I love about wrestling. Wrestling, it's almost pure in the sense that nothing tells you anything about that guy. There's no rank. It's just a singlet, and you're just wearing a singlet, and there you go. And now you're gonna fight the body, not the person.
Yep.
You know, where in jiu-jitsu, I think it plays into that. Like, oh man, you know, look at all the stripes on that. Yeah. That belt looks a little worn. Damn it, you know. And it might play with you, man. But one thing that I got from fighting wrestling, from fighting kickboxing, from fighting in jiu-jitsu is that, or fighting, and bringing it into jiu-jitsu is like just fight the body, don't fight the person. You know, I don't look at eyes. I look here, and that's where I keep my eyes, and that's what we're fighting. I'm fighting the body. But the skill, it's still definitely there, man. It's just what your body's able to do. You know, like for example, I rolled with JT Torres a week before his 23rd birthday. That kid fucked me up. And his knees were doing this thing where he put me in, I had like a De La Hiva. He put me in like this headquarters positions where his feet were like this wide apart and he was on the ball of his toes. But his knees were here squeezing my leg. I was like, dude, I can't, my knees don't do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I elevated him, and then he like did his hip switch and scrambled and stuff, and it was almost like, wow, that's so cool, man. Where at 40, our bodies don't do that. It's just so it's very important that if you're like us, like you know, starting to push that you know mid 30s, 40s age, that don't build up what you think your competition is going to look like by looking at adult purple belt or adult black belt. Those guys are amazing, man. They're, especially this younger generation, they've turned themselves into athletes. It's no longer just jiu-jitsu. It's jiu-jitsu performed by people that have spent a lot of time turning their body into the body of an athlete. They are very athletic. They're very fast. They have a lot of fast twitching muscles. Look at, you still have that in our age division. There's monsters out there, but look at what it looks like. You know, pull up Masters Worlds and watch it at your rank, and it's going to be very different. Like for me, a guy that I thoroughly enjoy watching fight, it's Roberto Godoy. Mm-hmm. It's there's nothing fancy. He is 40 years old, I think, 40, 41, something like that, maybe 39. But there's nothing fancy in his movement. You can see where You can see his age in the way he moves, but you can also see the body of a warrior that's been on a lot of fights. You know, so it's definitely a good point of reference for me to not be unrealistic as far as the expectations of my body. You know,
I like it. Do you feel like it takes away from the actual title? Like if there's like, hey, I'm a Masters World Champion, but I had one fight versus the kid that had that, you know,
that had the 6-7 fights in 2 days.
Yeah.
I don't think so, man. I don't think so, and I find it very irritating when people knock on other people's titles. It's not your journey, man. Especially it irritates me when it comes from black belts. I'll give you an example. There's here in Arizona, there's a lot of different circuits that come through as far as tournaments, and there's this tournament that came through, and it was like blah 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 nationals.
Got it.
You know, and a person won, and they were so happy, and I like this person, man, and they were so happy that they won. And they might have had just one fight, they might have two, but this person said, I am the blah 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 national champion. And they were so happy, and they were showing that gold medal, and people were jumping on that. I jumped on it. I was like, dude, that's fucking amazing, congratulations, blah blah blah. And then I see somewhere else on Facebook a black belt mocking it. It's like, unless you go to the US Nationals by IBJJF and you fight 7 to 8 times, and blah 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 blah, you're not a national champion. Take that shit off Facebook. Dude, I unfriended that fucking dude. It irritated me to no avail, man, because number one, I feel that it came from an aspect of ego, because, you know, my son competed in that one, he won, you know, so he has a national title from this thing. Guarantee if his guy had won, he'd be like, oh, look at our then national champions that we have. I might be wrong, but to me, the way I processed it, it came from ego. So it irritated me a lot. Number two, it's not your job to try to knock somebody's success. You don't know what the journey of this person was to get to that tournament. You don't know what it means, shit, man, to even have medaled.
Yeah.
So it's not our job to knock it, to diminish it, to try to take away from what it meant to that person. I celebrate whatever people win, because you never know what the journey for that person was. Now, is there a difference in pedigree? You can always argue that, man. You can always argue that winning your division in Naga versus winning your division in a Gustavo tournament. You know, Gustavo will always have better competition that shows up to his tournaments than the Naga. But at the same time, we're arguing your journey. I have fighters that were so shaky in their confidence that I knew they would drown if I took him to Gustavo right away. So I took him to Naga. And I took him to Naga a bunch of times until they got their footing. And then they were like, oh shit, maybe I can do this. Yeah. And then we went to Gustavo, and then they won. You know? But to me, it's that, man. It's like, it's... So no, to answer your question short, I don't think it's I don't think whether you win one, whether you win one fight and you get gold, or you have to fight through 6 or 7, whatever it is. So it's like you fulfilled your side of the contract, which was, on this day and age, I'm going to bring the best me, and whatever the challenge is, I will meet it. You fulfilled your side. If it just happened to be that only one person showed up, then do your best on that fight. And if you want it, you want it. You know, I think the only time where you can't post anything is when you, by default, like nobody showed up in your division, they hand you the medal. I think it's, you still deserve recognition for showing up. Nobody showed up, but you're not the champion in that division. I think that's the only time that people shouldn't post anything, but you still deserve the recognition for going out there, stepping on the mats. I don't know. That's
I can't wait. I've never had one. I'm gonna show up. I can't wait to show up where it's just me and it just like flex on that podium. Yeah, just by myself.
It's never that, man.
It's how badass I am. I scare everybody. It's always
this fucking knuckle draggers, and they're all in the podium or in the bullpen. You know, that's the part I hate about competition, man. It's the weight. I try to stay within shape and within weight of where I compete, you know. So if you were to say, "Hey, man, like we're fighting right now in that room over there, all right, let's go," you know.
Yeah, I agree.
I hate the weight. I hate the day off. I hate getting pushed around like cattle. You know, I mean, you have to run a tournament professionally, which is part of that, where you have to manage this thousands of competitors, but just constantly going out there looking at the TV. You know, when's my bracket going to start? Oh, you got pushed back from 3:30 to 4:30. What the fuck am I gonna do for the next hour?
I'm gonna warm up, cool down, lay down.
I'm gonna warm up, cool down. What am I gonna do? Do I warm up enough? Do I push it? And then your bracket gets called, and you're in the bullpen, and everybody's sizing each other up, man.
Yeah,
you know,
I like it.
But then it's crazy because you're like, there's no fucking way me and that dude in the same division.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And then he gets called to a different division. You're like, oh thank God. You know, but they're thinking the same. You know, I've last time I was in Pants, this one dude is like, oh fuck, I thought you were in my division. You know, and I was like, I thought, you know, thank God you're not. You know, because this dude had like traps, you know, and stuff. So it's the imagery still plays a huge role into that, right? So
yeah, we're
sizing each other up. We're trying to figure out, okay, this guy's going to be very strong, so I'm going to do this and do that. But yeah, man, I think that if you win a title, celebrate it as long as you got to fight for it. But I think that we as a community, we need to just, if there's a voice within you that it's making you go to that keyboard and shit on somebody's success, there's something wrong with you.
Something wrong with you.
There's something wrong with you.
I don't want to be your friend.
Yeah. Oh fuck, I unfriended that dude, man.
So yeah, to bring it full circle, like I have 8 years before I retire. If I retire when I want to, and I do want to. I figure I can retire at 50. I stay physically fit. I figure at 50 it'll be a better platform than if I retire at 57 to go and open up my own academy. I love training. I love training people. I've been an instructor since the military, through law enforcement. I help as a coach with my team now. So, you know, I enjoy teaching. And I want to get those titles, and I feel like those titles are going to assist with that resume of saying, look, you know, this guy went after a Pan Am championship. He's a Masters world champion. Not so much to say I have to be a champion to be a good professor, but I feel like those titles will, at the very least, comfort my students, my teammates, as to I've been in the trenches too.
You know how to get there.
Yeah, I've been in the trenches. Yeah. I know how to get there. Like, I can help you too. I'd like to be able to be a well-rounded instructor like yourself, Professor Enrique Villegas, and Al Gani. These guys, all these black belts. You guys are incredible. Phenomenal mentors to follow, just to watch even from afar, or to speak to in person, because you're able to not just teach, but to instill this sense of mentorship. Like, man, I want to talk to this guy, from a student or a teammate, from all aspects. Mm-hmm. A law enforcement officer, a veteran that might possibly be suffering from PTSD, a single mom, you know, a 67-year-old grandfather that just wants to get after it, or a stud that wants to be a world champion. And I want to be able to balance all those things.
To navigate all those.
Aside from just studying jiu-jitsu, I'm studying quite a bit, and I have 8 years to sharpen my sword before I step out and in hopes of becoming a professor of Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Beautiful. What's your vision for jiu-jitsu, man? Where do you think jiu-jitsu is heading towards right now?
That's interesting. We talked about this at that last super fight, last Warrior Standing, and I really enjoyed what we talked about as far as when it comes to competition, the vision of jiu-jitsu that you mentioned to me, which was more super fights and maybe not so many tournaments, to sell yourself, to have a brand, right? Mm-hmm. For me, I agree with that, and I love it. For me, I want jiu-jitsu in high schools. I want jiu-jitsu, you know, elementary or middle school, Sierra Vista versus middle school such and such, just like wrestling. I want to see jiu-jitsu, something that our law enforcement community is not only able to train, but it is promoted from our higher ranks in DC. I want to see policy changes. You know, it's unfortunate that within certain policies, which is for the most part the same across the board in all law enforcement, that I could shoot somebody or I can render them unconscious with a rear naked choke, and they both are on the same playing field.
That's so crazy.
It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, deadly force, yeah.
I could argue that it is a form of de-escalation. You're a big guy, not this guy, but you're black belt in jiu-jitsu, it ain't gonna work on you. But I have no idea who you are. You're a bigger guy. I can see that you may want to fight. I know that I can slap a choke on and fight's over. Fight's over.
No damage. No punches, no damage, no broken bones, no, I don't have to shoot you. Yeah.
No damage to myself, no damage to you.
Both of us were home. Yeah.
And you might thank me later. You know?
Yeah.
I'll thank you. Hey, thanks. I didn't have to do all the paperwork. I have to do this. So that's my vision for jiu-jitsu. There's other, you know, we have champions out there already doing it. I just would like to keep promoting that. And everything else that we got going on already as far as the competition scene, our veterans and these great organizations like We Defy that are offering veterans that are suffering from PTS the opportunity to come train at academies free of charge to them. You know, I think it's one of those things that it does make a difference, whether it be the fighting, whether it be the camaraderie, whether it be just dumping that testosterone, sweating on the mats and getting choked, man. Like, it makes people feel good. I know it does me. And I'd like to just keep pushing the things that already are instilled instead of trying to create my own thing, you know, as for jiu-jitsu.
Beautiful, man. So let's end it with this, man. I think, like I said, I think you're like a very powerful, wonderful image and a part of jiu-jitsu. Where tell the world, man, where can they want to come train with you? They want, as a father, if I wasn't a black belt myself and had my own academy, I would definitely want my kids hanging out with you. So tell the world, man, where can they come and bring the kids and train with you?
So I train at Gracie Barra Tucson. I also train at Gracie Barra Oro Valley. I study under Professor Enrique Villegas at these schools. That's my team. That's my school. If you want to stop on by and give us a shot. Just get on the mats with me. If you don't want to go there, like, I'll come to you. I just want to roll with people. You know,
have a mat, we'll roll.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Awesome, brother. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.